first of all, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to us. Shall we begin perhaps firstly with a quick presentation of Kidiliz?
Who we are, right?
Yes.
Who are we? We are a group of 15 brands specializing on kidswear, which is really a specialty of ours. 15 brands very much oriented around French and European fashion. And we have strong local sourcing, and we master nearly all of the distribution channels in Europe and beyond. So we master the full loop of what is necessary to be relevant in the market.
That is a very interesting aspect anyway. You have your own retail operation, so to speak. How many shops do you have in France, for instance?
In France we have 500 stores in total. Worldwide we have 900 stores, and then we have some other stores with our partners. We do 2/3 of our activity in retail. So we are very much of a retail company, but complemented by the other channels of distribution that are necessary to well cover the kidswear segment.
Yes. Which are the most important channels besides retail that you just mentioned for you? And it's different from label to label, I guess. But
yes, of course it varies very much. Wholesale is still, to the multi-brand independent stores. This is always something that is pretty live, especially in Latin Europe. Department stores, of course, are extremely vivid and really across all the regions of the world. You always have very important department stores that can promote the brands. E-commerce is booming, and in some occasions, like the underwear for one of our brands, Absorba, we are also still active in the hypermarkets of Europe, because this is where the consumers are expecting those brands.
Yes. A quick question regarding production. Do you produce kind of worldwide? Do you have production facilities in France? Because a very French company. So what is
we had many sourcing facilities in France, but right now we are rather like the whole segment. 70% of our sourcing would come from Asia, and 30% from Eastern Europe and the Maghreb zone. And basically we go to the sourcing countries that have some very specific know-hows. We have one specificity to have 11 sourcing offices in the world with teams on the ground all year long, following the suppliers. So we have strong partnerships with our suppliers. And suppliers in kidswear, as you know, are very different in their know-how vis-a-vis the other ones. So for us, it's been always a long story of partnerships with sourcing companies.
Manufacturing in outside of Europe, in Asia, has been in the news over the last few years quite a bit. Do you have a code of practice, so to speak, which your cooperation partners have to abide by? Because that's a quite complex issue.
Yes, this is so sensitive that of course we have a very strict code of conduct. You imagine that especially for a company being active in kidswear, there cannot be anything related to any issue of environmental and social issues. So we are extremely strict on the code of conduct. That's also why, even beyond the code of conduct, we need to have those teams on the ground to really follow up the relationships and the real life of the suppliers locally. And if anything were close to any doubt, we would be extremely forceful on our reactions. It cannot be anything in a gray area.
Okay. Now these were kind of the general setup of the company. Now let's go to the labels, the brands you have, which you've nurtured over a long period of time. And which one shall we look at? You've got Levis as a licensed brand. How's that going? Tell me a bit about that.
I'll let you know. Three things. First, the group developed with the Z brand. The Z brand is very active. We are in Florence, in Italy, and in France. In some other countries, but really very strong in those two countries.
The Z brand, I don't know that well. Where is it kind of price-wise?
It's middle market. Let's say 10% more expensive than the classic verticals. With a very strong content on fashion, very Franco-Italian fashion, with affordable prices in a boutique setting that is very warm and very unique. You really feel that you have a shopping experience.
Yes.
And by the way, this is one of the models that is right now, when I travel beyond Europe, one of the most exciting and suitable for many situations, be it in Middle East, in Asia, in South America. Right now, within our portfolio, although we could think what is the easiest to export, is actually this very positioning of a middle market brand that has a lot of identity. It's counterintuitive because very often we say we are in a polarized market with very strong actors on price and super strong luxury brands on the top, and those in the middle are need to decide who they are. Well, it's true, but at the same time, in a time where people are want the fashion, the content, and fashion element at a reasonable price, those who have a strong identity and a strong personality can have an interesting future.
Is it, before we continue talking about some specific brands, over the last few years, I don't know whether it's right to put it like that, but have consumers become slightly more conservative, which in a way helps brands like yours because they've been in the market for a long time. They excel a certain heritage, etc. Is that something you can observe, that consumer expectations are changing a bit, less extremely fashionable but solid, possibly a bit conservative?
It's a good question because it can go in two ways. I find that right now, with surely the internet and the exchange of pictures, the kids are younger and younger exposed to the life of the brands, the marketing of the brands, and that worldwide, which was not such the case, let's say 10 years or 15 years ago.
Yes.
So the expectation of I want the brands that I see is really a worldwide trend, which also means that those who have the strongest brands and the greatest means of development really take it all. So when you talk about Levis, when you talk about Kenzo, those are worldwide known brands who are extremely dynamic on the adult side, and of course kidswear is following the wave because the kids and the mothers or the grandmothers in the case of kidswear, they see those, they are exposed to this trend, and they are really ready to buy those brands for the kids. So I think globalization of marketing has had a good effect on the global brands, which also means that the more local brands I would say have greater difficulties to go to the critical mass. And in kidswear, critical mass is really one target to chase because it's 10 to 15% of the total apparel market. So you need to chase the.
Which means, or which explains as well your international expansion. You are quite, your international strategy seems to be quite, in inverted commas, aggressive, because you need the critical mass, don't you?
Exactly, you're right. And by the same token, I think we were a little bit late in our internalization, or let's say positively that we have a lot of potential over there. Twofold, through some of the strong brands that we have, Kenzo, Levi's, Paul Smith, Esprit now, so they are expected beyond their home markets, but also through the ability to put them into a retail format, because retail is really the leverage that bring you to a level where you can have a lot of positions in the market you want to conquer. So we have Zed, I was talking about, we have Katimini as a retail network as well, and then we have this Kidiliz multi-brand, unique because vertical retail concept. Why is it unique and vertical? Because we have upstream the brands, the 15 brands that can fuel this store, basically.
It's fascinating. Sticking with the, perhaps you talk a tiny bit about Esprit, but then first let's stick with the international expansion quickly. What are, obviously I guess your home market, France, Benelux, will be very dominant or very important, but in a few words, which are the most important export markets for you, and where do you see great potential?
France is half of our sales,
Okay.
but it doesn't represent half of the market in Europe or even worldwide. So it means that in Europe itself, which is the greatest continent in terms of consumption power for kidswear, we have a lot to do. We have strong positions in Italy, good in the UK. Germany was lacking in our portfolio, and I won't even talk about the beyond Europe markets where there is a lot to do. But even in Europe, there is very much to do. Germany is the second market in size in kidswear, very much with very much different tastes. The Latin part of Europe, we are Latin, we know, and so we wanted to be careful in entering the German market. We were thinking about that for a couple of years, and then the opportunity of working with Esprit came. And Esprit is a very, very strong brand, a fantastic brand with a huge and extremely natural and positive history, which is actually very linkable to the values we want to promote in the kidswear. And in looking for this critical mass, of course, working Esprit in Germany and then expanding the brand was an excellent setup. So right now we are working hard to put Esprit on the right track, on kidswear at least. And later on, the aim would be to also be stronger with Levis, Absorba on the German market. Germany is a very important market for Levis adults, and in kidswear it's not to the right balance. So we have also a lot of potential in Germany on those brands, for instance.
Sticking briefly with Germany, do you cooperate with now, working together with Esprit? Do you work with local trade agents, or how do you try to get into contact with the buyers and the retail scene in Germany?
We are very much of a hands-on company, so most of the things we do it on our own. So we have a full-fledged team in Germany, in Hattingen, close to the headquarters of Esprit, with a CEO of Germany. He's responsible for developing Esprit kits, but also beyond that, he will be responsible for selling with our own teams, our own commercial teams, Esprit and the other brands that we are about to sell in Germany, to the fantastic department stores that exist all around the lenders of Germany.
Okay. I hope you have another minute. We obviously watch, like many, the retail scene, be it France, be it Germany, be it Holland. The number of retailers is decreasing. The instant gratification is obviously achievable through digital sales, but still you have lots of experience in the retail sector. Is there something special when you think about the German market that you might be able, with your background as a retailer as well, so to speak, to introduce which might work in Germany? Do you have certain ideas which you might try out in Germany and see how it works?
It's a very good question. A tricky one though, because I think that there are many things that on each side of the Rhine things are being done differently and that we can cross-fertilize. I think there are many things, of course, to learn from the German market in terms of managing the retail, being very systematic and be able to industrialize what is being done rightly, but globally. I'd say, we have, I will speak about the company that I'm leading, Kidiliz Group. There is this spark of madness sometimes, of fashion and creation that is not necessarily on one track, but somewhere, and it leads somewhere, you don't necessarily know where. And this sensation and this also way of working that also I think is a part of the creative generation. We hope that we can potentially bring some of it in Germany, but I would not give any lesson on general terms in this country. But I think the fertilization of those skills is incredibly interesting. I feel right now that on the German market, on kidswear, there are also talks and exchanges about getting or adding to the existing offer a little bit more premium, or let's say more fashion brands. This is what I hear from the customers. I think it's interesting. But it starts from the client, so from the German people. So then I don't exactly know how it will evolve, but I'm sure that it's an interesting venue to pursue.
Wonderful. Rémy Baume, thank you so much for your time. I wish you a very good trade fair, and let's talk. Let's continue the talk. I think it's really interesting.
Okay,
lovely. Thank you.